of only caring about one thing. I let the rest of my life fall away in pieces, like a cliff face collapsing into the sea. I felt like a monk, making great sacrifices for divinity. My goal was to write a book in 1 year and try to not make it about me, but so far it kind of was. Writing about yourself doesn't feel like the most divine thing ever. There's supposed to be something other involved, some faith in unseen forces. I read somewhere that writing is like a way of connecting with a higher power, what some people would describe as a dialogue with God. Therapists were good for that too. So I caught the train once a week to see Debbie. Her office was on the other side of the ring, in Prenzlauer Berg, a suburb with an inexplicable amount of earthy toy shops and pregnancy yoga. The ring was made by the Ringbahn, the train line that ran in a circle around all the inner city suburbs. Like clockwork, if you imagined clocks that also went backwards at the same time as going forwards, because it ran both clockwise and anti-clockwise at all times. It was far, but I was lucky to find a therapist at all, so I went. The train ride was the perfect amount of time for me to run through a bullet-point list of neuroses in my head like a military drill. It was when I prepared all my best material. Ask Debbie about Matthew. Ask Debbie about Matthew's invitation. Ask Debbie if your novel is stupid. Ask Debbie if your life is stupid. Ask Debbie if it's wrong to be jealous of your best friend's newborn baby. Don't ask Debbie, but try to ascertain, does Debbie like you? I was in the middle of this mental drill when the man's candy made contact with my head and made that disconcerting crack. The mood in the carriage up until that point had been jovial. I think everyone other than me generally enjoyed the man. While waiting for my reflexes to kick in, which never actually happened, I gave the man such a dead-eyed stare that he made off in the opposite direction and didn't ask me for anything. The passengers sitting to the left and right of me had these dainty 1950s-looking candies and were sucking on them happily, as if to say, "Isn't life sweet?" I looked down at my lap. It was an entire chocolate bar, a perfect square, the size of my palm. So I hadn't imagined it, that my pain was probably worse than everyone else's. Debbie told me that attack was too strong a word to describe what had happened, and that yes, I probably was only imagining that my pain was anything spectacular. Then she laughed, pointed at the egg-shaped lump forming on my forehead, and said, "Only in Berlin." Some part of me knew all along Debbie was a terrible therapist. But the more I needed her, the less I could see that. I needed a stern mother figure to tell it to me straight. I needed to talk to someone apart from Belle and I. Things had become complicated since Belle had had the baby. She was someone else's mother figure now. She was someone else's literal mother, actually. And I looked forward to seeing Debbie. I liked Debbie. I enjoyed our rapport. She was so mean to me that I was sure she didn't think I could be suicidal, and I took that as a compliment. I liked to think that I was strong enough to weather all the shitty things she would say to me, so I could glean something good from her, like panning for gold. She was also free, paid for by my compulsory insurance, so there was that. I nicknamed her Debbie because she reminded me of a German version of a modern-day Debbie Harry, and also because Deborah was her actual name. I never asked her how she ended up with such an Anglo name. I never asked her anything about herself at all. Debbie was crass, unforgiving, and dry. She used the C word a lot, which reminded me of home, and was strangely comforting. She regularly had laughing fits at my expense, and when she did, her laugh was deep and raspy. She sounded like she might have fronted a pioneering new wave meets punk rock band throughout the late 1970s and 80s, with a rigorous touring schedule of chain-smoking and heart-destroying. She had a stoicism about her. Her cheekbones were argumentative in themselves. One side of her mouth would curl whenever she was internally disagreeing with me. The only matronly thing about her was her extensive collection of asymmetrical cardigans. Once, when I tried to skip a session because I had nothing to say, Debbie told me she couldn't afford not to get paid by my insurance company. So I went. I came up with some new material. Maybe I was lonely, but I kind of fucking loved Debbie. "How's the writing, Kim?" she asked. I'm more into reading at the moment.